Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear.
And I'm Don Carr.
And we're here today to talk to you about pedal boards. Now, pedals are incredibly popular with players, right?
Well, of course.
Hardly a player out there doesn't have at least one. I mean, you got to have at least a tuner, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah, at least a tuner.
Right, and when you get past that, you start to run into some issues when you're taking pedals out, you're going to rehearsals, you're going on stage or whatever. I mean, we've got a bunch of pedals here, and if I was going to set up on stage, I'd be dragging these different pedals out, setting them up. I'd have to run cables between each one, figure out how to get a battery into each one, a power in each one. They're going to move around.
Right, that's the biggest thing is them sliding around.
Right, and then when you tear down, it's the opposite, right? You got to take it all apart,
sure,
find some place to put them all and all that. Well, a solution to organizing these pedals and making them a lot easier to deal with is a pedal board.
So we've got a variety of different pedal boards here, but they all really serve the same function and have a lot of commonalities. So let's check them all out and let's build one.
Right. So the idea is we've got these surfaces, and many of them have holes in them here, which allow us to route cables. But we put hook and loop fabric on these. So we stick this right down. We've got a strip here, and you would stick that onto the pedal board, stick the opposite side onto the pedal, and then they clamp right down. So for this example, let's check out the Mini-Bone from Gator, which is this pedal right here.
This is an ideal board if you've got a small setup, 3-4 pedals. You've got hook and loop already on the entire surface, and so all you got to do is mount this to the pedal.
Right, so you just peel off the back side here, which is this, and there's adhesive on the other side. Well, let's go ahead and stick it onto a pedal and show how this actually works. So we've got a drive pedal here from MXR. This is a Rygen drive. Did I say that right?
I think that's right. Rygen.
And so we look at the back of this, and we can measure out the amount of the hook and loop that we want, somewhere around there. I just happen to magically have a pair of scissors in my pocket.
Get out of here.
It's true.
What a Boy Scout you are.
I know. So we can cut this off here.
Yep.
Now we could put one strip on there. We could do a strip across the top, strip across the bottom. A lot of times what I like to do is do two kind of lengthwise strips like this.
Yeah, it makes it really solid that way.
And go ahead and peel those off and stick them onto the pedal there. So then once we have the hook side of the hook and loop, then at that point, peel this one off here, press this on to the top of the pedal board, and we're basically locked in place.
Ta-da, look at that, man.
Just like that. Now we can add an additional board. This one already has the hook and loop on the back of it here. We'll probably need a tuner at this point, and maybe we want a booster as well.
Sure.
So now at this point, we can cable these together. And the nice thing is, once we have them hooked up, they can stay hooked up because we're not taking them on and off the board.
Right.
But of course, we can change things around if we want to. It's as easy as unplugging something. So we've got some EBS cables here. These are very low profile cables, and they allow you to get more pedals into the same amount of space. So why don't you go ahead and hook those up. So basically we're hooking the output of the first pedal to the input of the second pedal. So at this point, the other thing we need to worry about is powering the pedals. Now we could power them with batteries. Most of these will operate off of batteries, although not all of them will. But there are a couple of drawbacks to that.
Yeah, right. Well, one of them obviously is that it's harder to get the pedal on and off, and change the battery out, especially a lot of them are screwed in on the bottom, so you've got to unscrew them, and it's kind of a big deal.
Right, it's not convenient, especially when you're on the way to a gig or whatever.
Right.
But the other aspect to this is that most pedals have a switching jack on the input, and when you plug into that, it activates the battery. So if you leave a cable plugged in, you're going to be draining the battery as you're using it.
Wah, wah, wah. You
Exactly.
got a dead battery
dead
at the
battery,
gig.
and then you're stuck.
Not good.
So the solution is to use an external power supply to power these pedals. There are a number of different options there. You can use a block or a brick type power supply like this Eventide Power Max, or you could use something like a one spot, which basically daisy chains all the pedals together. You plug one end into the wall, and then we have multiple power outlets here that we can connect into our pedals. Don, let's go ahead and power these pedals up.
Sure.
There's the end there.
Here.
So now at this point, when we connect the AC plug into the wall or the outlet, we've got power feeding all of the pedals. And we can arrange this, you want your cables to kind of lay down, so if we turn these, and actually maybe we'd route this one so that it's laying flat so the cables aren't sticking up. So we can do a variety of things. We can cable tie these together to make this a much neater presentation, so that we aren't tripping on cables and we aren't accidentally pulling them loose.
Right, that's the other thing, because when you put your foot down to stomp on a pedal, of course you don't want to grab a cable.
You don't want to step on a cable.
Disconnect everything, yeah.
Exactly right. But at this point, we've basically created a small pedal board. We've got a tuner, we've got a booster, we've got a drive, and we've got a delay. Going to cover you in a lot of situations.
Works for me, man.
And the nice thing about this is, you grab this one pedal board, grab the power supply, comes with an included bag, slide it in, and you're ready to go. So at this point, we've created a basic pedal board that's going to cover a lot of situations for us.
Right, it sure will, but there are other options, and especially if you're wanting to go bigger than this. So
right, add more pedals and things.
Right.
Okay, great. So we have here another pedal board from Gator. Let's swap that one up there.
Sure.
Now this board is set up a little differently. It's an angled piece of metal. Underneath we have a clamp for mounting a power supply. So for example, this Eventide block would slide right under there and clamp down. And we've got slots that allow us to route the cables through so we can do a very neat presentation of our pedals, and it also makes the whole thing a little bit more durable. Now we can start putting our pedals in line. Now when you're dealing with multiple pedals or more pedals than this, certainly you're going to have to talk about the order you put your pedals in and how you're going to be routing everything.
Right. Mitch and I did another video where we took a really deep dive into that and explored pedal orders, so that's definitely worth checking out.
Right. But at this point, let's say we're putting together a board, and maybe we'll have a drive on there, and we'll have the Eventide H9 to give us a wide variety of different effects. We've got another drive. This is a Strymon. We'll go ahead and plug that into the power cable here. We've got a freeze pedal from Electro Harmonics, so we can lock in some different effects, and the carbon copy will drop on here as well. So we have a lot more flexibility for placing our pedals where we want them and to put them in the order that we want them.
Right, right. And you know, you can also notice too that they're getting a little farther apart, and sometimes you've got side mount jacks and top mount jacks, and so you may have some differences. Definitely got to look at cable length, figure out how all that works, and you can stuff the excess down inside the holes if you need to.
Sure, actually route them underneath.
Exactly.
So if we're going from the input here,
right,
we could route through the slot, bring it up,
exactly,
and plug it into the back here, and then the cable's totally tucked out of the way.
Yeah.
So again, it keeps things very neat, very clean.
Nice presentation.
Indeed. We've got another pedal board for you to check out. This one comes from Emerson Custom. Now they're well known for their pedals and the electronics they make for guitars, but they're now making pedal boards as well. And this has some unique features. First of all, it has these nice wood end caps, which is really it's a beautiful presentation.
Nice.
Again,
yeah, super nice.
Slots in the top for routing all your cables, but you'll notice we have 4 large slots here on the front and on the sides, and there are modules that plug into these. So we could put 1/4-inch jacks here, we could put power supply connections here, we could put AC connections here, and be able to route our signal underneath the board, keep all our cables hidden, bring everything up through these slots in the top of the pedal board, and again, it makes for a very neat, very versatile, flexible board.
Yeah, it sure does, and they've got modules that basically fit in these slots exactly.
Right, right, makes it very easy.
Yeah.
So now we've talked about and showed you how to build a basic pedal board. We've looked at a little bit about how you arrange your pedals and things. Let's take a look at 3 example boards that Don and I have built. One is my live board and 2 are his studio boards, and we'll show you how far you can take these concepts. So Don, this is my live pedal board. It's a Friedman, as you know, and it offers some unique kind of features that really made it easy to pack this board, get a lot of stuff on here, make it extremely powerful, but still pretty compact.
Yeah, it's got a really small footprint. That's one of the nice things about it, you know, the 2-tier thing.
Right, and they make several different sizes. This is actually the smallest size. So the way this board is set up is there are 2 levels. There's a level here, and then there's a lower level here in the front. Underneath this back part, there's a power supply mounted there, and on the end, there are connections for going to the amplifier and for coming back from your guitar. So you can plug into the end, you don't have to actually plug into the pedals, which makes it very convenient again. The heart of the whole system is the switcher. So the switcher allows me to turn the effects on and off. It also sends MIDI to control the delay and the modulation pedal. And it also changes channels and turns boost functions on and off on my amplifier at the same time. So this kind of serves as the hub for the whole thing.
Right, yeah, you got a lot of firepower there, man, definitely.
Right, yeah. So the signal comes in, it's going through the wah pedal, going through the compressor, the tuner, jumps off of actually this the switch box here. We've got the drives in here, and then the volume pedal actually comes after the drives, so I can have full drive but be able to control the volume. Goes out to the amplifier, the effects loop comes back and goes to the modulation, the delay, and the reverb, and then goes back to the amplifier again. So pretty versatile setup. I can get a lot of different sounds out of it, but it doesn't take up a lot of space.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, me, man, I love the volume pedal after the drives, so you can control it like a master volume.
And you can still use the volume control on your guitar.
If you want to clean up.
Right, exactly. And the little mini wah, I don't use a wah that much, so this works just great for me to have that there for the occasional song when I want to step on it. But this gives you an idea of the control you can have and the functionality you can have in a pretty small space with a pedal board like this. So Don, this is one of the boards that you use in the studio here at Sweetwater.
Right, yeah, this is half of my studio setup, basically.
So why do you use 2 boards?
Well, for a variety of reasons, really. The biggest thing for me was to have a lot of options immediately that I can just get right to without having to unhook stuff or unplug stuff or go, oh, wait a minute, let me go grab this thing and come back. Because when you're in a session, a recording session, especially when you've got a client, it's really important. Time is very valuable, so you want to have everything at your disposal.
Right, so we'll look at this board first,
Right.
then we'll look at the second board. And this board is pretty dedicated to gain pedals, it looks like.
Right, that's the other thing about why I did two boards. This is like the front end board. Like if you're going to plug this into the front end of your amplifier, this would be the way to do it. You start with a wah pedal and a compressor, and then you've got all your flavors of drive.
And then you're switching those in and out using a loop switcher up here?
Right, right. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right, so you just turn them on and off here.
Right,
Because again,
right.
you're not on stage, so you don't have to be able to instantly necessarily step on things quite that fast.
Exactly. I'm not worried about presets. I'm dialing in per song, per track, per overdub, basically.
Right. And this is a pedal train board which has rails and again allows for very easy routing of cables underneath and to the power supply that's mounted underneath as well.
Right, right. Same thing. Definitely did that. And these are, I've got a hodgepodge of like custom cut cables and a few that I found that's like, oh, that's the right length. Let's just use that.
Right, right. Don, this is the second half of your studio rig.
Right, the other side. This is the back end board. Like I would put this in the effects loop of an amp.
And this is a good sized board you got here.
It is. It is. It's pretty silly actually. But again, back to that whole concept of just having everything at my disposal, just being able to reach down and grab it. And disclaimer, total disclaimer, I would never use this live.
Yeah.
It is a nightmare.
Right.
But you know what? Honestly, just dragging it back and forth from the closet to the recording studio, I haven't had any problems with it.
Right.
Yeah, one more thing we definitely need to discuss is powering. So when you get to something this size, it's really important that you have the right power.
Right, all these pedals require a different amount of current or milliamps to operate. Right. Something like the Polytune requires just a few milliamps. The Strymons or the larger pedals take a lot more power to operate, and you want to make sure your power supply supports that.
Exactly. I mean, like the Korg is, I think it's 600 milliamps. I'm guessing, but I know it's more. So I've got an actual separate power supply for it.
Right, and the H9 also takes high power, the Mobius, whereas some of the other analog pedals and things don't take as much. It's just something to be aware of, so you're sure that the power supply you're using supports all those. And as you get to a larger board like this as well, we've found that an isolated power supply works better. Right. Isolated means that each of the power outputs has its own ground, basically.
Right,
and that means you don't get hums and buzzes.
Sure, and you've also got multiple voltages available as well. Some pedals are 18, some pedals are 12. I've seen it kind of all over the map. So
right, and that information is pretty readily available at manufacturer website, Sweetwater website, or in the manual for the pedal. So you can take a look at those and then choose the power supply that's going to work best for your rig. One last thing, if your pedal board is going to stay in one place, like Don's studio boards do, a case isn't that important. But when you start to get to a board that you're taking out to clubs or on tour or even to worship situations, or you're bringing it out of the house for rehearsals, you got to have some kind of case to put it in.
Yeah, some kind of bag or case, definitely.
Right, and I like to have a case that is lightweight, but still gives good protection and holds everything in nice and solid. Now, most of the boards we looked at today come with a case, so it's really not an issue.
Right, right. But yeah, I'm with you. I like the anything with a padded edge, and a padded top. It's really nice.
So, Don, we have covered a lot of information about pedal boards, but hopefully we've taken it from the basics to much more advanced stuff.
Right, right. I think we have. I think we've covered everything, in terms of just the basic assembly, how to put something together.
Right. Now, if you have questions on how to put a pedal board together, choosing pedals, how to make it all work, contact your Sweetwater sales engineer, visit sweetwater.com, or check us out at YouTube. We've got a lot of videos and a lot of articles on our InSync blog as well that cover those kinds of topics. I'm Mitch Gallagher.
And I'm Don Carr.
And thank you for joining us for Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. Be sure to tune in next time. We'll have more guitars, more amps, more effects. We'll be making lots of music.